Review.
Hey folks, it's Rob coming to you from Spankwagon, only at Spankwagon.net. Drink, bitches. No, we've been doing a lot of upgrades here at Spankwagon with regards to our gear, and one thing we know that has been kind of an issue has been video, mostly with regards to cropping the shot, focusing, whatever. As you've seen lately, we've been using Canon Rebel T3Is. Great cameras, especially for the price, but the screen's pretty small. I mean, that's, it's nice that I can articulate and everything, but, that not a lot of area to focus on. So, and especially when you're front row at a concert and you're up against the stage and trying to get a close-up of the guitarist, yeah, not a great way to focus. So we've been looking for a solution to help us with that, and we think we might have found one. So this is the Lilliput 569 GL monitor. They actually have a few different versions of it, which is what accessories and stuff come with it. So it's a 5-inch monitor. It's actually very, very light. Like, that is not even, half a pound right there. Now, you can mount it a few different ways. One, you do have a stand. Now, one thing I would be careful about the stand, there's pretty much no weight to it. It's probably going to tip over, if the wind blows. So if you need a stand like this, you might want to look elsewhere. But the nice thing is, it actually uses a standard 1/4-inch tripod mounting screw. So if you have a heftier stand, you probably just snap it on and go. And the other nice thing is, it actually has screw points not only the bottom, but on the right and left sides, or for you people viewing this home, right and left. So you actually have quite a few different options if you're using a cage, if you're using a bracket. Unfortunately, no top mount, so you'll have to find another way if you're doing some goofy setup. Now, one other thing you'll notice is the monitor is in widescreen, but unfortunately the native resolution actually isn't HD. It actually does, I believe it's 840 by 480. So it's good for cropping in some focus, but if you need something that actually gives you that really good detail, you're going to need to go to a bigger monitor. It's just all there is, or spend a lot of money on a 5-inch monitor. So speaking of high definition, it actually does give you quite a few options here as far as connectivity goes. You actually have HDMI in and HDMI out, which is really good, especially if you're using a outboard recording system, like from the ones from Blackmagic and stuff like that. You also have component and composite in, all done via BNC, which is good because if you're moving around, you want to be able to lock down your cables. Now, another nice thing is, while you do have the ability to power it off of 120 outlet, you have battery plates. They actually have some available for Panasonic and Sony batteries. Now, I do wish they kind of had one for Canon because, if you're using like a 5D Mark II or 7D, you probably got a ton of the LP6 batteries. So it'd be nice if they had a Canon option, but the Sony and Panasonic options are actually pretty easy to find. So you could go to like your local electronics store or whatever, or one of those battery places, be able to find them for cheap. So I'm going to be really cheesy here and just use myself as the subject for the monitor here, just to make life a little bit easier. So one nice thing I do like about this monitor is the fact that it actually has a speaker and a headphone jack. If you need a different way to actually monitor your audio, in case like maybe your camera doesn't have like a headphone jack, like our Rebels don't. So that's a very nice feature there. On the front of the unit, you have a number of buttons and dials here. Now, four of them are pretty straightforward. One is your power button, which will let you know when it's on, or it's at least getting power and just hasn't been powered up yet. Now, the first three to the right of it are for your video inputs. Now, one nice thing I do like about this, if we hit video composite there, it will light up and tell you which one you're currently using. You have 4 buttons here that are done in an elongated diamond direction, which they have a default section, but these are actually user-definable as far as what features you might want to use. I'm currently staying with the default setup for right now. So, in the default setup, here, you get crop marks. Rather basic crop marks. You're not going to get, thirds or something like that, but it might be helpful for framing, especially if you're maybe not planning on doing 1080, but you're just doing it just in case you want to crop. That's probably about around 720. So function actually is a underscan mode, which if your camera does it, might be helpful, but with the Canon I've currently got hooked up here, it doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot. So function 3 here is very handy because it'll actually rotate between grayscale, red, green, and blue. That way, if you need to check your color settings, that's a good way to do it on the monitor. It actually could be handy for a lot of you people who need to color adjust on the fly. If you're not one of those people who can do it in post, so it's very, very handy. So function 4 is actually for adjusting the aspect ratio, which can go from a 16:9 display to a 4:3 display if you need to. So the first knob here is initially set to adjust brightness here, which you get a nice little bar graph down in the lower left hand side. But the other main thing about it is when you press in, you get a menu, a way to set certain settings here. I'll get to that here in a bit. The right hand setting is actually currently set for volume. I'm not going to turn this up too loud because I actually found this out by accident. It will feed back, so have to be a little careful with that. So let me go through the menus real quick here because you are actually given a bunch of options here. Like you can actually go ahead and adjust the picture now. When you first get it, it may not be intuitive about how you're wanting to actually change the settings. And yes, it will go off after a few seconds. When you go into the menu, you want to turn your right one. And that's how you do all your settings. And it's your normal display settings, color, temp, brightness, contrast, whatever. So now, as I mentioned earlier, you actually can set the keys on the front of the unit to whatever you need. Like say if I want to change function 1, I can go in between. So I'm going to leave those in, and you can also adjust the dials, which is really another nice feature. And then if you needed to, for whatever reason, if you wanted to turn on and turn off the ability to go to certain sources, this would be a way to do it. Then the miscellaneous menu is just where you can set up your language reset. In blue mode, well, if you want blue bars instead of black bars, well, there you go. So one other thing I do want to point out here is the monitor actually does have a sun hood, and it's actually, it's pretty solid. It'll help if you're doing some work outdoors. If you need something a little beefier, you'll just have to go aftermarket. But especially for indoor use, I mean, it's a matte screen, which, if you can see my lights here, doesn't really give off a whole hell of a lot of glare, which is good. The brightness on is wonderful. The color reproduction is pretty good. I mean, it is. You wouldn't want to use it as a post-production monitor. I mean, it's really truly for in the field, cropping your shots, getting the focus, whatever. So the color adjustment's nice if you have a concern with that. The ability to hear over the speaker or the headphones, especially in playback if you're in the field, is wonderful because the speakers on these things are very, very tiny and not very loud at all. So if you need a good starting monitor that's not like super huge, it's not like a 7 or 10 inch monitor, this would be a wonderful choice. The only drawback to this is if you need focus assist like peaking or zebras, this does not have them. You would actually have to step up to their bigger version. These were just a bit under $200 on Amazon. I would have to say that this, especially if you need a starting monitor to help you with getting those shots, while running and gunning with your camera, especially, this would be a good purchase. We hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any comments or suggestions about what we should review, give us a shout out. It's Austin at Spankwagon.net. We'd love to hear from you. If you like it, comment on, favorite this video, share it with your friends, comment on here. We'd love to hear from you. So, I'm Rob. You've been watching the Spankwagon review, only on Spankwagon.net.